scholars and practitioners from across the globe. But before we begin, I would like to invite the Dean, Mr. Rashid Rana, who in his capacity as an artist and educator does not really require any introduction. He's been associated with the school since its inception, and it's really his ideas and vision for an art and design program that sets the school apart from many other institutes in the region. So let me just welcome Rashid Saab, and over to you, sir. You're mute.
Thank you, Roma, for your kind words. A very warm welcome to all our guests, our attendees, our students, and especially our esteemed guest, Mr. Rajiv Samdani, Joe Cope, Faisal Anwar, and Ms. Shilpa Gupta. Thank you for joining us on this special occasion, which holds a special significance for our students and faculty. Well, let me just brief you a little bit about the BNU project. It's a private foundation, not-for-profit foundation that was established back in the year 2003. And it's Mariam Daud School of Visual Arts and Design, also known as MD SWAD or SWAD, has the privilege to be its first school that we started off with. And now we have 7 schools altogether. It's the first liberal arts university of its kind in the region in Pakistan. We're very proud of our faculty and students who for the last 17 years have worked hard towards building a new kind of paradigm for art and design schools in the region. So we have tried in our own ways to address what we thought was lacking in the regional art and design school education. So the hallmark of our vision is and the mission is to believe in world without boundaries. At least as artists and creative practitioners, I believe that we can afford to do that. It's the borders that exist in our minds which are more lethal than anything else. So as creative individuals, I believe we all believe in defying these borders that exist in our minds. And therefore, this very mission, this very idea guides the way our curriculum has been structured and the way our curriculum has been designed. And in order to achieve that, we thought that nothing better than a student-centric approach that could achieve this goal, because we strongly believe that our students are the ones who are leading the way. They are the ones who are truly in this time, and they can help us align our thought and practices with anything happening anywhere else in the contemporary world. So we believe in introducing new avenues for our students while keeping the old media and the conventional options open to them. We also believe in diversity. We are the only art and design institution in South Asia where students from all over South Asia, courtesy Madanjeet Singh Foundation, come and study here. And we're very proud of our diversity due to these South Asian students. I mean, COVID-19 proved to be yet another challenge that we had to adapt to. We have been adapting to situation in terms of our curriculum vis-a-vis the changes that we've been seeing in the art and design world globally, and that we feel is a key feature of our curriculum. But this time the challenge wasn't pedagogical or in terms of ideas developing anywhere in the world, but the challenge of COVID, so in which we landed back in around mid-March. And how well our faculty and students have dealt with it. I congratulate all my faculty and the students on this occasion. These last 5 months have been a journey of its own kind, starting off with the spring semester to be totally online, and then moving towards getting confidence, having done that, starting our MA Art Education program totally online this summer, and then the initiative of Global Classroom, which is I believe, a modest beginning, but with a great potential that the project has. So, but in all of this, what was really commendable is our students' determination to continue producing their thesis project despite lack of the access to studios. It seemed to be in the beginning almost an impossible task. In many, especially in some of the disciplines more than the others. So I would like to, this event belongs to them. I congratulate them, and I think their efforts deserved an occasion and a virtual show of this kind that I hope all of you present here, or those who are watching us live on Facebook and other streaming portals, are going to take the opportunity, and the link which is going to be made public after this event. They're going to see the show, and in a way, the boundaryless world that we believe in, whereas there is no replacement for the physical exhibition on campus, we of course are missing that. But at the same time, we have made it possible for everyone around the globe, whoever is interested in seeing what is coming out of this part of the world, to see these students' work, has made possible. So, and without any delay, I would like our real heroes, the thesis supervisors and the program heads, to share their thoughts as to how they think over the years, thesis shows and the degree shows the students' work that we produce has evolved, and what is specific to the trends for this year. And we will then have the great opportunity of our esteemed guest to share their thoughts, and over to you, Roma. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now we'll start with the Visual Fine Arts Department. It's the hallmark of the School of Visual Arts and Design. And it's headed by Risham Sayed, and Risham really needs no introduction. As an artist, she's been displaying, exhibiting across the globe. And over to you, Risham.
Thank you, Roma. Hello, everybody. Should I share the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this year we have 10 graduates, 10 distinct practices that I'll briefly share with you. But generally, we have, since the program is such that the students, the practices are idea-led, and they are, the program is student-centric, and so the students work with, a lot of materials and ideas, but it's mostly, the approach is conceptual and idea-led. And they all end up, with very distinct sort of practices and distinct interests in, ways of expressing themselves. So this year, the 10 graduates also have very, very distinct works that they've shared with us. And of course, the COVID situation kind of, affected or influenced how the final work came together, and of course it was all done in a way that it was whatever they did was to their advantage. So for example, I think I'll start with this. So Abdur Rahman actually made a lot of paintings that were very, very meticulously painted, and they are, based on his childhood experience of video games. But then he made them interactive by introducing the QR code, and one was supposed to interact with them through another device like a phone. And so doing this virtually was a little difficult. And so he just shared these videos. So it's a little, in his case, it was a little difficult because of the fact that, you know, the paintings and the surface that you're supposed to interact with, the physicality of it becomes, you know, challenging if you have to imagine the whole thing, the whole experience as a virtual experience. Yeah, we hope that, you know, after this COVID situation, we will see this work in flesh. Ali Mumal, for example, was working with a lot of you know, chemical reactions and materials, and in his words, he is kind of it's an amalgamation of feelings, residues, biorhythms, scientific reactions, and of course art. So he was recording you know, chemical reactions and turning them into his work, but eventually he ended up making a film out of this, and that can be viewed by all of you later perhaps, or if you've not seen it already. But then there is Ishan. So Zishan's work was also like, you know, he was making a lot of objects and talking about history and politics and power and religion. And so when COVID happened, he had to kind of think of strategies of putting this together in this virtual platform. And he ended up making these 4 films that are you know, very interesting and kind of talk about all the concerns that he was engaged with. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is just a glimpse into the, sorry. Maybe we can see, okay, we've already seen this. Abira. So Mariam was also painting and you know, playing with the idea of the line and landscape and 2 and 3 dimensionality. For example, these paintings are, you know, quite physical in their appearance and presence, because she was physically like injecting paint into these corrugated tubes, turning them into landscapes. So, but when COVID happened, she had to kind of, you know, change her strategy, and so she came up with these photographic kind of images, but then, you know, talking about the landscape and playing with the idea of 2 and 3 dimensionality. Then we have Abira. Do we have time, Roma, or should we just conclude here? Roma?
Yeah, I think we can spend another minute.
Okay. Yes, so Abira was also working with, you know, life, complex, you know, concepts of human relationships with life around. And so during COVID, she ended up with these, you know, photo kind of video montages and other photographic kind of works. So combining video and photography with similar concerns. Bakhtavar was also working with social issues. Bilal was recycling old fabric and old clothes. Then Asil was also working with AR and VR, and then made a lot of videos. Tehreem was also recycling and found objects and turning them into sculptural objects. Yeah. So
Great. Thank you, Risham. There's a lot of diversity, as we can see, in both medium and concerns. And we will talk about this in more detail just shortly after Umair. Fezullah joins us, and Umair heads the Visual Communication Design Department. And they have a group of 24 students who put up their degree show. So over to you, Umair.
Thank you, Roma. So here we go. I'm going to just start sharing my screen now. And I think before I start talking about our students, I mean I'll just try and put in a brief word about this package that we've built to kind of display all the works that we have. And one of the challenges was that I mean there's a lot of diversity in the kind of work that our students produce, not just in visual communication design, but also in fine arts and textile fashion and necessity. So we had to come up with some sort of a capsule which would kind of justify all the different mediums, all the works, and we feel that it's come very close to almost kind of like virtually displaying whatever it is that they've been working on. But one of the things that I personally feel was would be, I mean, is kind of lost in this medium is the idea of scale. And I wish we could somehow later on down the road figure out ways in which we can display or convey the idea of scale from these little windows that we kind of become enclosed in now. So I'll just move on ahead onto the work itself. I feel like so over the last few years, the way that the department has been shaping up visual communication design has been more of an exploratory and in which it not just expands on some of the mediums, but also on how visual communication design is generally looked at, especially in our part of the world. So what our students have been doing is that over the course of time, technology clearly has been becoming more prevalent, and so we lead them to start thinking about all the tools that they have to better understand them, and then to create a context-based researched understanding of whatever it is that their topics may be, and then to explore within them, and to see all the collateral literature, all the work that has gone into, whatever preceding work may have gone into whatever it is that they're trying to create, and come up with ways in which they can start expressing their ideas in a more holistic manner, where they have a deeper understanding of not just the topic that they're trying to talk about, but also the medium itself and how the medium is changing, and to kind of constantly explore and experiment with all the tools that they have. So I'll just go over some of the works and try and identify some of the trends that have come up. So this time around, I mean, we have more of an illustration-heavy kind of a thesis, and where our students started experimenting with their ideas and kind of started taking them further. So I'll just point out, I hope everyone can see this, but I'll just point out Rafe's work here for a, so yeah, so Rafe, what he tried to do was that he took the classical sort of very, very localized ways of graphic design as they're practiced in a very local Pakistani context, and trying to give them this I wouldn't call it modern, but I wouldn't call it very classical either, where it becomes this sort of an amalgam of the modern way of thinking, of the tools that are at hand, and then to see how the sensibility of all of these typographical elements and graphical can be combined to create an expression of or a deeper understanding of this mode and way of creating imagery as it is done in local mediums. And then we have, hold on. And so the other thing that's been kind of like common or is somewhat of an emerging trend is how our students are, or especially some of them, have really gone in and they've started to explore some of the things that really happen around us. So what Myra did was that she took I'm not going to really go through this, but what she tried to do was that she generated heat maps of earthquakes, and then she created an application where you could literally translate all of those heat maps into sounds, where you yourself, the user, can start assigning different sort of scales, different tonalities, and start to see how the idea of heat maps and these really disastrous sort of events can create, how does sound kind of start relating to them. And in a similar tone, I'm going to just, and this is Shagul's work, and I think this is, I think it's come out really nice. I hope everyone can see me drawing. So all of this is done through through this little visual code program that we call processing. And this is, again, I mean, when I was talking about the trends as they're emerging, this is one of the trends that has really started to come up in our students, where we don't necessarily teach them code, but they start learning how code works and how code or computation can start being translated into imagery, and especially imagery that is of a more interactive nature. So, I mean, I can go on and play with this for hours. And there's quite a few of these, and as part of her. Hold on. So yeah, and then so I mean, Sabdazar, Sabdazar created an entire book. She wrote it, she drew it, she illustrated, and I mean, this is. I hope it gets published one of these days, and she goes ahead and does this. This is a finished graphic novel, which really just talks about this woman's fight with her own self, with her own demons, through her sort of delusional sense of reality. And then I'll move on. Sarah Mayo, so what she did was she was interested in the idea of how men and women sort of interact, or how they see imagery and how the images kind of react to them and they react to the images. So what she did was that all of these patterns, these kind of really intricate Eastern sort of patterns are built from, I wish I could zoom in, and I hope everyone can see, but so if you can see clearly, I mean, these are all hammers, and then if I move forward, so there's screwdrivers and nuts and bolts, and so what she's trying to do is to create a parallel between how men use their tools, how they're represented, and how women are perceived through the idea of these specific tools that are assigned to our own genders. So some very interesting work. Irsha wanted to do something that was about microaggressions, and these are these really funny little clips that she's made, which I'll just play this really briefly. So these short little clips, and I'm sure you can see more of them as you if you move along. They talk about microaggressions and how we as people, as humans, sometimes say certain things, do certain things to people, and their reactions and how it affects them. For example, if somebody's we kind of like it's more of a human thing, and they do it everywhere. You know, somebody's fat or too thin, or somebody's got too many pimples. How they're seen, how you know, what they feel, and why perhaps we should think about you know, what the effect of all of these R words upon someone is, whether they make them more insecure or, you know, I mean, do whatever. Babrak figured that, I mean, I think he genuinely believes that the robots are going to take over the world sometime soon. I hope that doesn't happen. So he made this film where it's about a barbershop and a robot who gets murdered at the end. Yeah, so I just, you know, gave the spoiler here, but that's what happens. That's what life gives you. So I'll just go a little deeper into it. So what he did was that he started all of the character animations, the character design, the environments, and all of this, the story itself. This is all, and the sound, this is all just one man's work, and that's, I think a tremendous feat. And this is one of the things that's, I'm just going to pause this and move on. But this is the trend that's kind of like moving along in the department even further, where our students are starting to really understand how to tell stories, and stories, whether they be through in motion or whether they be through still static images. And I'll point out Aisha Akhtar in this case, where she's taken these really local sort of similes, where, you know, when you eat like a pig, in this case, or and, you know, working like a donkey, or you know, it's like trying to act like a snake, where she's taken some of her own personal experiences and try to illustrate them in a way where that kind of start telling, you know, these, or create these metaphors with real life. And then Kashmala likewise has, well, I mean, this is also an interesting one, because, I mean, so Kashmala figured that we're essentially all zombies. And these are also, so what she did was she created this whole zombie sort of a parallel universe that is a reflection on Pakistani society and how we behave and how we see the world and how the world sees us. And then she created this just really dysfunctional family where, you know, you've got these normal people, and then along with them you've got their own oddballs that we all have in our families, and, you know, outside of them as well. So I guess that's it. I'll just point out before I go just one thing. So the address for the website, should anyone want to look at it right now, is as you can see here, mdsvad.exhibitions.bnu.edu.pk. I'd point you to it, and, you know, have fun looking at all the work that our students have done. Thank you. I hope I didn't go over time much. Thanks.
Great, Umair. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. It's also very interesting to see how the concerns were very similar across, I think, the whole group, because of course they're living in similar circumstances and conditions. So we've had some students with a bit of overlaps in their concerns. And it's interesting that when they're thinking along a certain theme, how they're, in their medium, they're working differently. And with this, I would like to invite Ms. Kiran Khan. Ms. Kiran Khan, again, does not need any introduction. She's been with the School of Visual Arts and Design since its inception, almost 2 decades now. And she's been in academia for a quarter of a century. So over to you, Ma'am Kiran.
Thank you, Roma. So I'll share my screen. Right. All right. Okay. So this year's thesis group was taken by myself and Roma. So I think she has a lot to give credit to. This group this year, under the Textile, Fashion and Accessory Department, worked under the most challenging circumstances and at stressful times, especially due to COVID-19. And we had some students who lost their parents and loved ones. And this pain was basically shared by all, especially at SWAD and the TFA department. However, it is commendable how this group worked hard, kept working under the guiding philosophy of SWAD. So by and large, under the umbrella of diverse themes, students from textile, fashion, and accessory uh, contextualized their position in society. So it was, producing thematic works, using unconventional materials, fibers to generate thought-provoking and challenging works in both form and content. The TFA program, the Textile, Fashion and Accessory program, is interdisciplinary in nature. And it combines textile, fashion, and jewelry and accessory in a way that students not only share majors, but are free to choose electives beyond their specializations. We feel that the TFA program produces what we call socially conscious thinker designer, a term very, very close to my heart. And students are able to express through their work, whether as fiber artists or make social comments or revive the craft of their people. This year we have a pool of work that ranges from narratives to fabric stories, to developing yarns with LED fibers. So from fiber art to product design, to fashion accessory. We have a variety of approaches this year that students have undertaken. So if I start from students who had textile as a specialization, we have Amriza's work here. She talks about intizar, which means wait and longing. And she's building miniature houses through the language of textiles. She's created these fabric miniature models. This is a recreation of her ancestral home, and it's been done with fabric and other supporting materials. So you can see the details here. And then we have somebody like Rouge, also a textile major student, who finds inspiration in the chaos of life and sculpts intangible hope through her work. So she her project was a craft-based project where she worked with the women artisans. She's developed certain three-dimensional fabric sculptures, and she's used embroidery, and then she engaged local women craftsmen to develop crochet samples for her. Crochet is a dying art form now, hence during this COVID time, she was also providing livelihood to these women. And so you can see the details, some digital print and embroidery. Okay, so then we have somebody like Sana, who questions the idea of consumerism. And Sana has developed these handmade quilts, which are hand sewn and hand embellished. She used patchwork as well as embroidery to develop these products, some quilts and some accessory items, as you can see here. Then we also had students who were developing, as I said, yarns with LED fibers. So this is Tehseen's work, and he developed this fabric with LEDs, and he developed different products and some accessory items as well. And we also had somebody like Nirmal, who was working on the concept of partition, and she came up with this concept of what she calls cabinets of curiosities, and they were like miniature, small-sized bags and boxes that were statement pieces, and she used various embellishment techniques to develop these cabinets. Okay, then we had somebody like Arshia, Kashyap. Kashyap was reviving craft is something that is very close to the TFA vision. So Kashyap was working to revive the art of Jamdani, and she developed some samples on her own, but due to COVID, then she was also allowed to outsource and use craftsmen as well. So these are some of her designs. And she also trained 2 artisans, 2 craftsmen to develop Jamdani samples as well. Then from the fashion department, as I said, Iram is somebody who worked on the revival of Fulkari. She talks about struggle through the art of Fulkari. So reviving craft is one of the domains of TFA, and here fashion turns into craft and accessories. So she's developed various products apart from her garments. Yeah. So then we have jewelry and accessory. So Soha here, with a major in jewelry and accessory, was looking at architectural materials, and she worked on concrete and discovers how it can coexist with semi-precious and precious stones. So she questions the relation between time and strength. And then finally, we have one more example. Nimra. Okay, so Nimra was looking at a locality in Lahore called Ichra, where she resides, and she was looking at communal living. And so she questions the idea of communal living through another kind of lens. So she's developed some statement pieces, some wearable jewelry, as well as some miniature table pieces in silver. So one last, I think, example is Arshia. And Arshia was also a textile major student, and she worked on the status of women in society and women's ability to endure pain and passion. And she looked at various texts in Urdu literature, especially the famous Majalis Nisa by Altaf Hussain Hali, which was a very famous text. And so she's woven these examples of metaphorically of depicting a woman's womb and how she endures a pain. And so this was her installation. And these were all woven samples, hand woven samples on the hand loom. Yeah, so so that's it. And then the virtual show is designed in a way that every student's page has at the end a video link and a link to a process documentation, which can be viewed along with a detail of their abstract and their thesis investigations. Yeah, so that's it. Over to you, Roma.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Roma,
And
sorry, just to interrupt you, I forgot to mention one student, and because it's a small class, so just to be fair to her, there's one Hira that I mentioned, I forgot to mention, and so yeah, she's creating these moments in her work where she's inviting audience to meditate upon nothingness. So very minimal kind of works, and she's the 10th student. Yeah.
Great.
Roma, are we not looking at fashion? Kiran forgot to mention about fashion.
No, she did.
No, I did. I showed the Fulkari was fashion.
Fine.
Yeah, okay. That was from fashion. Iram Shehzadi is a fashion major student.
Okay. So just a representative works,
yes,
not all the works.
Not all the works. I have 34 students. I didn't have enough time. So just an overview of everyone.
So we hope that everybody will spend some time. The link that has been shared, it's going to be up, and that's the advantage of having a virtual show, it doesn't go down. I think we're going to have it, but it would be nice to for everybody to view the show and give us feedback. And there are ways that you can interact with the students. Their numbers are available. And this brings us to the second part of our webinar today, where we have a very esteemed panel, and we would like to speak to our guests and take their feedback. So firstly, we have Shilpa Gupta. Shilpa is an artist based in Mumbai, interested in human perception. She employs interactive video websites, objects, photographs, sound, and public performances in her work to probe the ideas of borderlines, labels, censorship, and security. She studied in the Sir J.J. School of Art and has had solo shows at Museum Vormond Kunst Arnhem, Contemporary Art Center Cincinnati, OK Center for Contemporary Art in Linz, Arnolfini in Bristol, and has participated in biennials in Venice, Berlin, Kochi, Lyon, Guangzhou, Havana, Yokohama, Liverpool, and amongst others. Her work has been shown at MoMA, Tate Modern, Centre Pompidou, Guggenheim Museum, New Museum, Davy Art Foundation, Louisiana Museum of Modern Art, San Francisco Museum, and Modern Art Museum and Mori Museum. So welcome, Shilpa. And we will just come to you. Let me introduce our next guest, Faisal Anwar. Faisal Anwar is the Chief Experience Officer at Elixir Technologies, USA, and an independent new media artist at Decode Pixel. Faisal Anwar is a graduate of Canadian Film Centre's Habitat and the National College of Arts, Lahore, in 1996. Currently, Anwar works at Elixir Technologies, USA as Chief Experience Officer and developing design-led cognitive interfaces and bringing holistic, integrated experience and design to cloud-native, innovative software and making design-led strategies an intrinsic part of the company's culture and worldwide business practice. Anwar's creative computational thinking and artistic practice branches through interactive installations, immersive environments, data-driven interventions, and internet art. So thank you for joining, Faisal. And Jo Cope has, for over a decade, for her shoe and artwork and fashion installations, have been represented at a diverse range of prestigious events worldwide, including the Venice Biennale, Fringe Festival, London Craft Week, London Design Festival, and Fashion Matters at Buckingham Palace. She has exhibited internationally at top museums, including the Budapest Museum of Art, State Museum Russia, and Decorative Arts Museum Paris. Jo's conceptual and future-facing fashion practice crosses the boundaries of fashion, art, craft, and performance. Her most recent social project, Shoes Have Names, is in a collaboration with Homeless Charity Shelter. Thank you for joining us, Jo. And our chief guest for tonight, Mr. Rajiv Samdani, is a Bangladeshi industrialist and an art philanthropist. He is the co-founder of Samdani Art Foundation, established to support the work of Bangladesh and South Asia's contemporary artists and architects to increase their exposure. As part of this initiative, he co-founded Dhaka Art Summit, which completed 5 successful editions. He's the co-chair of Tate's South Asian Acquisition Committee, a member of Tate's International Council, Art Dubai's Advisory Council, and Al-Circa Avenue's Programming Committee, and a founding member of the Harvard Lakshmi Mittal SAI's Art Advisory Council. Samdani and his wife were the first and only South Asians to receive the Mobla Dila Culture Arts Patronage Award in 2017. So welcome, Rajiv, and welcome everyone. And I would now like to maybe start with Jo, because we just ended with textile and fashion, to give us a review and feedback of how she sees the work.
Okay, so thanks for having me. I'm starting to feel a little bit more like your family. So thanks, Rashid.
Likewise.
Thanks, Kieran.
So yeah, it's wonderful to be here, and I'd just like to say that I work with students in the UK, and so I really feel the pain of what the students have gone through everywhere in the world. So we've had the same challenges, and I think particularly in fashion, you know, it's so physical, it's so material. There's some practices that are easier to adapt than others. So I feel that fashion and textiles has had a major challenge. You know, when I looked through the online exhibition, which is really fantastic, it's something that I know I'm going to need to go back to, which I think everybody, you know, I need to spend some time in there. There's so much work. But as well as looking directly at the fashion, what I would say, if we're talking about from the fashion perspective, is I'm also really interested in the work which confronts fashion outside of that practice as well. So within the visual arts, there's some different works that I kind of made notes of. And one of the pieces that somebody spoke about earlier, which dealt with clothing and how we're clothed in more of a philosophical light. So I think that, you know, that's really interesting. But I guess I'm always looking at, as an outsider, you know, what is the hook? What is the route into the work? You know, what's going to make me or anybody else connect with your work? And that's something that I say to students all the time. I always say, imagine nobody cares. So imagine nobody cares. How are you going to make them care? So I think that's really important. So when I was looking at the work, you know, it's not always the first visual that you see, but for me, it's the depth, and that's already been spoken about. So I really love, with the fashion pieces that I saw and with all the other work, it was really reading about the pieces and finding out kind of the human stories. And I, you know, being touched by one of the textile people's work, who was dealing with their kind of brothers, the loss of their brother, Momina Nanim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nassim, yeah.
Yeah, so it's this idea of kind of textile as therapy, you know, that fashion can have a greater power in society and to us as people. I think that, you know, the future is all about this kind of humanness within fashion. So this was a really kind of a very real project to me, something that felt very live, something that she made in reaction and response to. So, you know, sometimes students will create something that's very distant or abstract from themselves. So for me, that was fantastic, you know, to think that she could maybe go on to look at creating a practice which looks at textile therapy in the future of healing anxiety and the reduction of pain through material, you know, through working with material. So I really loved that work. But there were many pieces that, you know, I wrote down. But essentially, I think that, you know, there's a real diversity. And some of the key points that I think are really important for students are the fact that needs to be, first of all, something educational. You know, what is the student teaching us through our work? Every one of us here should feel that they would learn something new from a person's work. So something, what are you going to teach your audience? And then this idea of cultural heritage. You know, I've come to kind of, you know your university and start to meet people from Pakistan. That's a new thing for me. You know, what am I going to learn from that experience? So the cultural heritage, the ability to educate and increase people's understanding of the history. And I found that in one of the projects to do with the gemstones, where, let me see if I can find that piece. Let's have a look. Yeah, Journey from Mines to Gemstones. Harinja Ashraf.
Yeah, Huria Ashraf,
yeah, sorry, yeah, my pronunciations are going to be...
No, that's fine, that's fine.
So this person was educating people about the mineral mines, but it had this bigger significance that she was talking about. Could it help us become better consumers? Yeah, she was highlighting the good things of a small industry and also looking at the struggles of labour and craftsmanship. So again, I was as interested in that as the physical end product, although that was really beautifully crafted. So that I found engaging. To be a provocateur, I think there's people that are challenging the future of craft. There was the piece to do with beauty and aesthetics, challenging beauty standards, and what Aswad. And sorry, I'm being a bit random with that. I just looked at random things. And that almost felt like it was going to lead on to maybe connections to AI. I think that would be really interesting for that person to look at this idea of flaws and physical flaws, and how maybe within AI we could create somebody that could learn to enjoy and embrace those. So it felt like it had those futuristic links. And also they said recently, it just reminded me, because I've read recently that we have this, because of the pandemic, there's been more cosmetic surgery happen. And so I read, after I saw her piece, I read that Zoom meetings are one of the reasons people are having more cosmetic surgeries. I thought that was really relevant, because they were saying we're spending more time staring at ourselves for like 20, 30 minutes, and we're starting to become self-critical. So I thought that work was really great, because she'd harnessed that idea of working digitally, which is the digital people have really been the winners, I think, during the pandemic. Then the human connection, connecting and relating with outsiders through personal stories, which I just mentioned, the person who was doing that really well. And then the social political relevance, you know, how does it connect or relate to the current time? And there was somebody who did really lovely work about, let's find, trials and tribulations of the pandemic, Char Dowry, and they were creating what I consider to be almost a living document. They were I kind of thought, how many people are going to have responded directly to the pandemic? That was what I was interested to see. And at first I was clicking around and I was thinking, oh, they've all stuck to what they were doing before. Has anybody like really engaged with the moment? And then I started to uncover a few. So they'd obviously dropped their project and had to completely modify what they were doing in order to engage with this current circumstances. And I think that their work was both really had these wonderful observations of children in doorways and things that they were seeing every day, but it also had this really futuristic element to it as well, in both the kind of painting and also the video work. So yeah, I think there's so much to take in, and I want to go back to really engage with it again. I feel like I've only just sort of, you know, brushed the surface. But congratulations to all the students, you know, really fantastic to see what they've achieved.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you.
Such a rich, nuanced feedback. And I'm sure, I hope the students are listening who are here. I wish when I put my show up, somebody like you came and gave this kind of a review of my work. So this is again to find an opportunity in crisis, to get the kind of people that we have over here. And which brings us to Faisal. And Umair just spoke about scale. And Faisal, I think in your work, scale is probably something that is important. And you know, you're working as an experience officer. So, so how are you looking at this experience of this virtual show?
Hey, thanks for inviting me. Thanks, Rashid. Thanks, Umar, and all the lovely people here. This is really exciting to be part of it, and I think this. I like the word what Rashid said. No boundaries, and I think. This is a really good, I would say, starting point to reach out to an audience without any time and space. So congrats to all of you to put together this journey for all of us to be part of it. Yeah, scale is something I think is pretty interesting in many ways, especially when we think about an experience. And I think in contemporary times, as Marshall McLuhan talks about in his book, medium is the message. So it's interesting sometimes a medium which creates a message and which changes our perception. And sometimes the medium itself become a message. We are living in a post-technology time. It's not about technology anymore. It's not about creating pretty surfaces anymore. It's more about, as rightly used the word, student-centric. I think it's more about people-centric perceptions. It's about storytelling, which I've been looking at in a number of different projects. It's something really, I think, fascinates me even in my work. I think the boundaries between these disciplines are also living without no boundaries anymore. And there's a lot of exciting work which I see in the design and even in the textile and also in the visual arts. So in a nutshell, I would say, especially when I think the design sensibility brings in the people-centric approach into this perspective. So we talks about all the cognitive interfaces, the developing these strategies, which not only touches our audience, it also allows us to tell the story and generate a message to our audience. And our audience, after COVID, we actually, I think, in my opinion, we covered at least 5-year span in the 6 months. The technology evolved so much, right? We are already living in the deconstruction of all these industries across the board, where everything is in a question, how we are creating a content, how we are generating a content, and how we are developing these narratives to reach out to our audience. So COVID actually put the nail right in and push us so quickly that we all have to evolve. And today is one of the outcome of that push, right? We all have to evolve. And I think this will push design even further. If you look at the advertising industry, if you look at the healthcare, if you look at the banking, all these industries are in the deconstruction process right now, so to speak. All these ideas about AI, blockchain, machine learning, they are on the forefront and they are changing the way we used to conceive design. So I like some of the projects which I briefly look at today. There's one project which really resonate with me a lot. It's this experience-based work. My emotional journey through sound, variation, and projection. I think that's an interesting work, and I would love to experience it someday when I visit Lahore. I think it has a lot of multi-layer interlinkage between the mediums, and it talks about this storytelling, which has a sensory sensibility in it, and those type of projects personally really resonate me. There's another project, which is, just bear with me. Yeah, perceiving art, which I think Umar also shared, is something which I think has a lot of potential to look at from a different perspective. And when we talk about scalability, when we talk about accessibility, it has a lot of ground in it, I think, because of the medium itself. Because it allows us to engage with it with our own time and space. And I think that's where the design is moving now, right? It's empowering audience to be part of the narrative and to control the narrative, and to generate a narrative based on their input and based on their desire, which is becoming so interesting in this time and space we are living in. And I think that's a pretty interesting work in that way. What else? Yeah, I think this first work, Ux, I don't know the name of it, but where the designer is doing Pakistani old sort of traditional topography and playing with it and creating some narrative out of it. I think that's something also fascinates me, because I think the more we think about the so-called globalization and think about the cultural context and the cultural relevance into the design, I like these type of work where they push the cultural context and try to find or experiment with the form. So it has something, a good starting point, I think, in terms of looking at what is the relevance for us in Pakistani context and in global context, and what that means in terms of creating these new language and new imagery, which is more, which has more grounded roots into the work, and also allows us to reach out and try to engage with the global context. So I think that has some really interesting perspective in it. Yeah, great work all together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And that brings us very naturally to Shilpa, because especially this one last work that you've discussed, when I saw it, and I kind of compared it to a lot of these posters that I've seen on the other side of the border, and the aesthetics are very similar. So aesthetically, of course, I mean, there's so many overlaps, but we often discuss on how when we travel the GT road, there is hardly any difference apart from the change of language from Arabic and from Shamukhi to Gurbaki. So Shilpa, how are you viewing these works? Firstly, thank you for joining us. You're a star, and I'm sure the students are very, very honored that you're talking about their work. So thank you, and over to you, Shilpa. Your mic is muted.
Yes, thank you so much. It's lovely to be there here and to see familiar faces from all over. It's amazing. It feels so close. And I would just like to say, I mean, hard to single out, but I mean, it's just amazing to see, like, having sort of spent so many years here, seeing so much of work across students. I'm on various juries across various art institutions in India. And really big congratulations to Rashid, to Risham, to Kiran. I mean, you guys and Umair, you all are doing, and Roma, are doing a fantastic job as teachers. What you have really created and inspired, and the work, not just from fine arts, but also from design, is absolutely brilliant. It's tremendous. I mean, what's And again, sort of picking up on what was just spoken before, but about the melting of ideas across different departments, I think that's a really big takeaway I mean, I'm going to ask my cousins who want to go into art that maybe they should come and join your school, because it's such a fantastic creative space that you've created. I mean, I hope the students, we can't see each other, but I would really tell you that you seem to be in a great, fantastic moment and a amazingly thriving, space in South Asia, in fact. And yeah, I mean, each student's works, of course, you have your personal leanings. I mean, Zishan's work was very close to, like, some of the ideas I'm pursuing. Then I really like the last student, Risham, you showed with. It was amazing how they have actually transferred, like, using QR code. I mean, it's brilliant. Like, you've managed to sort of using this challenge, but to sort of leap over and find a new way of working, or this other photo montage. I mean, each work was really amazing. And of course, I was also constantly looking and seeing works across various departments, and, you know, the narratives it's built all across. It's very great. But yeah, that's what I have to say. Yeah, big congratulations to both the teachers and the students.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. This means a lot. Again, coming from you, this means a lot. You must know that people really follow you over here. And this brings us to our chief guest tonight, Rajiv. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you. You must be very busy, and you took out time. And you're again somebody who's been followed. We've had students who've come from Bangladesh, since we're an institute where a lot of students from SAARC countries come. And they've gone back and they've looked at what wonderful work Dhaka Art Summit is doing in the region. So how are you looking at the works?
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the wonderful presentation by all the faculties. And I have been a big fan of BNU for a long time. And you know, Rashid and I, we have discussed about this over and over again. And you know, we always talked about it, that how actually we can also send Bangladeshi students to BNU. And fortunately, some of the alumni are also Bangladeshi and say artists like Aisha Sultana, who also received the Samdani Art Award in 2014. And we have been also showing Pakistani art at the Dhaka Art Summit from 2014 till now, every single edition. And 2014, we also had a dedicated exhibition on the contemporary art of Pakistan. So I believe that BNU has been producing the finest contemporary artists from our part of the world. And I have a lot of respect for the faculties of BNU, how you guys are giving back, because that is what I always tell Rashid, that, you know, you are a big star, but you guys are giving back. If I receive 50 emails from Rashid, there are probably 49 of them full of his students, works of his students, never a single email from him about his work. So that is what actually shows the dedication. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate all the students who are graduating today. Congratulations for all the fabulous works that you have produced. And I'm sure all of you will go a long way to fulfill your dreams. I just wanted to add one thing, that, you know, when we started our foundation, or like, you know, when we started about 10 years back, started talking about all these initiatives, those days things were much more difficult, but now there are much more opportunities. A lot of the Western institutions are looking at our design, our art, our textile. In last 8 to 10 years, they have formed independent departments. They have dedicated curators for South Asia. Even if you look at our region, there are a lot of biennales, a lot of events are happening. It has also created a lot of opportunities for all these young creative people. So I'm sure, inshallah, all of you will go a long way. And lastly, of course, everyone, they look forward to their degree show after 4 years of working. That is something You always like, you know, that is your dream that, okay, after 4 years, I'm going to have my degree show. But I also think that any challenges also bring opportunities. So this degree show was supposed to happen, maybe targeting the local audience of Lahore, but today it's happening for the world. And I'm going to share this website also with others. So I think that is, I give my credit and salute to all the faculties of BNU for coming up with a platform like this for the artists. And, you know, now their works can be shared with everyone, anywhere in the world. And I hope that other institutions in South Asia will also, you know, follow your footsteps and create a platform for the artists. And lastly, again, congratulations and all my best wishes to all the artists. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those of you who can hear, there's azan going on in the background. And this is again the privilege of maybe somebody who's sitting in Canada. You can hear how familiar this may sound. So, Rashida, would you like to?
Yes, just a quick message. First of all, I would like to once again, I can't thank enough for Rajiv, Shilpa, Joe, and Faisal to come and join us on such a short notice, and then with their fantastic feedback. It's such a great feeling. I cannot explain that how close we feel with our South Asian and other friends. And I think we should make most of this opportunity. Now this COVID has made us realize about something. It's only accelerated what was bound to happen anyway. And I recall when we used to use those internet dialing, you know, used to hear those tones. I think that our students are not familiar with that. I'm talking about the faculty and some of my colleagues, not all of them, not Ruyu Roma. So then it seems so archaic. It seems like another, you know, millennium that, you know, we experienced that. And now, you know, what we're experiencing in terms of virtuality right now, it will sound so obsolete and archaic just down the road 5 years from now. There will be such sophisticated means of virtual engagement. What we call real, I mean, it's just a relative thing. We usually associate reality with physicality, and that is going to change forever. And then the line is going to be so blurry. And our students who are graduating from this class, they will experience and make use of it in their future creations and lives and professional lives. So I'm pretty sure that this is not they will break many more boundaries in their professional professional lives after graduating from here. And I want to say to my students very just a quick message that though you are graduating from this institution, but we will always be there for you, and we must stay connected, and then you must take the vision that we started off with forward through your works. Thank you. And I have a quick message before Roma takes over. Rajiv and Shilpa and Faisal and Joe, I've sent you a link. If you can stay back. I mean, usually in a gathering, in events like this, you stay back for the after hours and then you chit chat and before leaving. So I don't see any reason why we can't do that, even in this format. So if you have any time, I mean, I know we were over on time. So for 5 minutes, if you would like to join for a meet and greet at the end, so do make use of that link. Thank you.
Okay, thank you once again, everyone. I think
Thank you.
I hope the students are here and watching, and we wish that we were doing this over a cup of tea or coffee or something else. But we're here right now in each other's company, and I think the feedback that you got from, again, across the globe, you would not have had if, again, we were in a different setting. So there will be many more opportunities to have more physical shows, but here's to your first ever virtual show, and all the best to you. And thank you everyone once again for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
Roma. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.